Rookie minicamp is in the books. Some guys popped, some guys we're waiting to see, and some guys are complete surprises. We're going to get it today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom. It's Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free on all platforms. Welcome back. Thanks for making us your first listen. Go check out one of the other shows, including the draft show. We're still talking grades and going through the whole process, and we will focus on team building this whole year. We're going to get into what's going on in Kansas City today. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, home of the Athletic Matrix. You can find us at rogueapc.com and get a whole lot more there, as well as our sister site, NFL33.com. Check that out.
And I'm Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. You can find me over at Chiefs Corner. Had a lot of articles come out about all the draft picks, all their contracts that they were signing, a whole bunch of different information about all the draft picks. So go check that out on Chiefs Corner. Going to have a lot more coming out over the next couple of weeks, really getting into some of these players and their backgrounds. And you can find that at KC Chiefs Corner. So lots to talk about.
Thank you for doing all that so that I don't have to go look up contracts. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I will say I kind of feel like I'm copying you right now with the new headphones, so it is what it is.
No, that's all right. Yours look better than mine. They're newer. These old beat-up cans, at least they work. That's what I say about a lot of things.
I am enjoying. I thought I was going to be worried about the cans not really fitting on my ears very well, and it's in good shape. So
that's good. You got a big noggin. You got to make them work.
Yeah, exactly. I do have a big noggin, that's for sure.
So we heard from Andy Reid today on Monday, had some updates on the rookie minicamp. Now, they have a couple days off, and they start again next Monday on actual phase 2. Had a lot of guys out there today. And I think for 3 days, they got a lot done. We heard from some of the players. I think a few things stand out. We're going to get to them all, and then we'll talk about one more possibility, folks. But for me, I think the biggest breath of fresh air was confirmation that Jody Fortson is on track in his rehab. Andy Reid expects him to be ready, possibly by training camp, ready to go. And that is a huge relief for their tight end position, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's possible. I thought I saw something about maybe he's even back for, mini camps or something else, part of the phase 3. So if he's back by that, I think that's phenomenal. I think Kansas City's going to be in a great spot. And I do think that he has a larger role than a lot of people realize on this team this year.
I think they were fixing to have it for him last year. If it wasn't for the injury, I think we would have seen him really come along. And Andy said that he's done very well in his rehab. So, I mean, I'm really happy for Jody because, a significant injury like that, you just never know. But it's nice to see all his hard work pay off and that he's still in the mix. And I think he's definitely in the mix. I think they want to run more 2 tight end, maybe even 3 tight end this year. And he's going to be one of them no matter what. At this point, if he's healthy, he's tight end too, isn't he?
I would think so. And I will say this. I think it's also kind of funny that he is in a situation where he was one of these guys 4 years ago when he came to Kansas City. He was a tryout player. He wasn't even signed to the roster. He was a tryout player. This is what these rookie minicamps are all about. As of this recording, we haven't seen that they've signed any of their tryout players, so it doesn't look like they're going to. That's possible it'll happen after this drops tomorrow. We'll just have to wait and see. But right now, it looks like they're not signing either of the tryout players. But that is where Jody Fortson came from. He was a tryout player. He has worked his butt off to get where he is. So I'm excited to see him this year.
Yeah, I am too. And he really rounds out the group as well because it gives you a number of different aspects. And folks, we both sound a little gravelly today. I'm still under the weather from the Texas trip. Chris has kids sleeping, so there's a lot going on. So don't mind the audio. We're just trying to get this out for you. And as much as we should focus on that, there were a couple other tight ends that were in camp that stood out. Speaking of, it was nice to hear that at least it was reported that the tight ends in general are looking pretty good. I'm a fan of Bushman, who I think can take a step forward and raise the level of what we've seen from Blake Bell in that kind of role. But Mark Vital and Mitchell Brinkman also look like they're doing pretty well out there. So that's good to see. Round that group out with Noah Gray, and now you have a pretty competitive group. Not as competitive as the wide receivers. We know that. And the guy that's making all the noise is because today Andy called him smooth. And we heard from him a little bit about the fact that he's just trying to get back in the groove of everything he's had to overcome, knock the rust off. And that's one Justin Ross. We talked about him yesterday, but to see the confirmation, like to see that Andy's already fielding that kind of downgrading expectations already, that tells me that he's in the mix. And as long as he stays healthy, he should be in the mix in camp as well.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic thing for him. I think that you look at the injury past that he's had, and for him to overcome everything, if he's in the mix for Kansas City, I think that's great for him, and it's great for the Chiefs because they need somebody that has that uber talent, that uber type talent, and he has it. The question is can he regain it from what he was 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, I'm pulling for him. He clearly understood his situation, that the injuries were going to knock him down. When he spoke about the draft and going undrafted, he sounded a bit frustrated, but not surprised. You know what I mean? Like he knew this was going to be his road when all those things stacked up against him. And now it's pretty clear. He's getting a little help from Cornell Powell, who's at least been in the system for a year, hasn't played a lot, but that helps him make the transition. And unfortunately, I think Powell's helping his buddy take his job and his roster spot, but that's just me. It is what it is.
Well, but the question is was Powell going to make the roster to begin with? I mean, we won't know until we get to training camp and we actually see these guys. We talked about this yesterday. This is one of those things where you're going to watch them in camp. You're going to watch them, you're going to hear about things in OTAs. You're going to hear about, different plays that they're making in OTAs. OTAs really don't matter when it comes to these positions, and that's something that we need to keep at the forefront because then you start having lofty expectations of players that are going to take huge leaps forward, and that may not be the case once the pads come on.
We will forever refer to that as the Noah Gray phenomenon, folks. Yes,
but Noah Gray did it still at training camp too, at times.
Yeah, true. The elevated play count, snap count, target count can sometimes get away from you. So there are other guys making noise at camp. We're going to get into that, but I do want to tell you about our friends over at BetOnline because they are helping us out. They're the number one place and source for all of your betting needs and all your sports info in order to make those bets. All the latest odds, all the sports developments around the world, and all the sports that I don't track because this is the only one that I care about. Basketball playoffs, baseball scores, even NHL that I find interesting, and I love going to NHL games, but I don't have the time to track that stuff. I'm football 365. That's just the way that it is. All of that stuff can be found and dug into, whether it's wagering information, live betting, podcasts, everything that they have over at BetOnline. Head over to their website. Super easy to navigate, especially now that it's been redesigned. It's BetOnline where the game starts. Starting is a good way to put it because a lot of this has to come along. And to hear Matt talk about it, the spark so far, and by the way, love McDuffie actually calling himself, I'm a guy that wants to bring a spark because I say spark all the time and people tease me about it because they think that it's old coach speak from the 70s. Well, it is, but it still works. So
yep.
I was very taken with the way Trent McDuffie carried himself. Very low key and mellow about being a first round selection, a guy that is looked to be the future of the secondary, along with L'Jarius Sneed. Like I found him smooth and confident and ready to go. And I really appreciated the fact that he was all about explaining what he had to do in focusing his rookie life around the playbook and explaining to the media and therefore to all the fandom about, hey, I hire an agent and I hire people to take care of stuff like where I'm staying and what I'm driving and what food I'm going to eat. They take care of that so that I can be in the playbook and be the best player that I can right now, today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And that's what I wanted to hear from a guy that you just invested a top 22 pick in.
Yeah, and you also look at that as he's coming in, he's being a professional from the start, and that's a fantastic sign going forward. So I like that as well. He's getting a pretty decent signing bonus, so that will help pay for some of that. I think that's something, you look at what he's getting from Kansas City for his deal. It's $7.356 million in the signing bonus, so almost $7.4 million in the signing bonus. His salary is only going to be $705,000 this year, so very cheap for a very premium position at corner.
Yeah, it's nice.
But in his entire contract is just under $14 million. It's entirely guaranteed, which is a thing I think is going to be consistently a new deal for all first-round picks. All 4 years are going to be fully guaranteed going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense. It's such a savings versus the way the rest of the league is going. You should do that. And hear people talk. Karlaftis, George has walked in and brought everything that he brought to Purdue in being an Energizer bunny out there, run around with his head cut off. Andy Reid said that he had to like slow him down a little bit, like take your foot off the gas a little bit. And that's great to see too. Now we know about what his game is. That's always been part of it is his motor that is continual and doesn't let off, and that he does bring power and he does bring first step and he is explosive in a straight line. I think the key and what we're seeing already is that he's comfortable enough in being who he is and the staff's comfortable enough in being who he is that they're going to accentuate, and they have to accentuate what he does well. And you can't teach a guy to bend. It's just not something that happens. It's a body type thing. So accentuate what he does well. And I'm really excited to see what they do with that, to be making that kind of impact on a guy that isn't the super bendy Kayvon Thibodeau that was like all over the place, the guy that has dealt with double teams his entire career. Like that's a super good sign just off the bat. And so both of the first round picks appear to be what they invested in them and invested wisely.
Yeah, I love your terminology. They're super good. That's great.
Super good, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to throw this out there also on Karlaftis. His deal just under $6 million in signing bonus, another $705,000 in salary, just under $12 million fully guaranteed for his contract. So we are starting to get some of these contract information from what they're signing, and I think that's a good thing going forward. I think you're looking at another premium position that's being paid pretty much peanuts compared to everybody else in the league that's making huge money at that position. So I really would love to see Kansas City stick up in that area and go and try to go edge or wide receiver or corner or one of those positions in the first round for the next couple of years if they can, because I think that's where you're really going to get the bang for the buck. You look at what Karlaftis has brought to this team. He brings high energy. He brings somebody that's always going to be on the go, going after the players. That sounds like another pick that Kansas City has. Their third round linebacker. Heck, their second round safety. All of those guys are going to be high energy, high character, going to try to kill offensive players.
Yeah. I'm very excited about what the defense has in store for it. It's super good, bro. That's what I'm
super
saying.
Good. Yeah. It's almost like having $12 in the roster.
Yeah, right. I was going to go fantabulous, but super good is better, I think. Cook deserves a shout out because he's practicing not full because of the shoulder thing, but he's working with Spags. And he kind of got the treatment that Juan Thornhill got last year. When he wasn't on the field, he's standing next to Spags learning. Mm-hmm. And I like that. And that tells you that he's ready to get in there and play significant snaps, and that the staff is investing that time. And the defensive coordinator doesn't talk to you, even in rookie minicamp, if he doesn't think you've got something that he's going to need. So you got to get him ready. A couple other guys of note. Thanks to Matt Derrick over at Chiefs Digest, who gave us a couple of shout outs of things that I haven't seen, but some guys that we should note. Jerrion Ealy, the UDFA from Mississippi, compares favorably to Jerick McKinnon, is Matt's quote. Now, that is something that I like to see. Now, I liked his film. He can line up a wide receiver if you want to. He's certainly a back that you could split out of the backfield. So I think that adds a nice dimension. We talked about Bushman and the tight ends earlier. I mean, the big one, obviously, we talked about Ross, but the guy that's under the radar that I think deserves a little bit of noise is Mike Rose. I almost said Ross again. Because he's a guy that is in probably right now the weakest position group in terms of the fact that you have two bona fide players. You have another guy that you drafted to start. You have a journeyman special teams player as your fourth, and they always keep five. They have kept six in the past. So that seems to be a place where he can carve out a roster spot by doing what he does best and being an instinctual player in pass coverage and learning to do more. He's not the best athlete, but he's a guy that plays zone really well. He had 5 interceptions as a linebacker in the Big 12. That's significant.
Yeah, and there's another guy next to him, Jack Cochran, that is probably going to compete for a position on this roster. They absolutely need linebackers. That's going to be something that they've got to get figured out. And I say that they need linebackers. I'm not talking about starters. They've got their starters, but they're going to need their pieces. You have to have those, and you have to have guys that are going to be able to be core special teams guys that are coming from that linebacker group as well, which I think is very important. I think they have some of those guys right now.
Yeah, they need everybody they can get. They might have to get somebody else. We're going to talk about that here in a minute.
Let me tell you about our friends over at Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and people like Ryan really love them as well for all the times he breaks his truck.
Yeah.
Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you need from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. And it sounds like maybe even bumpers because Ryan seems to know that as well.
Yeah.
Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck right locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
They're super good, bro.
That one's going to stick, I think, for a while.
Yeah, it may. You never know. I've been hanging out with my daughter's volleyball team at all weekend tournament. So I've been listening to teenage girls talk to each other. Super good and bro are in every sentence. I'm just telling you. So yeah, it's going to get worse before it gets better, I think.
Well, at least we know where it came from.
Yeah.
It's really interesting though. You start talking right before the break. We start talking about somebody else that they might add. It finally happened. The New York Giants released James Bradberry. He is now a free agent. He can now sign elsewhere. You look at Kansas City's roster depth at the CB position, and my first
thought it's a mile long.
Right. My first thought is where would he fit? Why would you bring him in here? But I will say this, and I said this earlier on Twitter. I don't think he comes to Kansas City because I think of the depth that they drafted. But I will say this, and I apologize because I keep saying that statement. But what I would say about it is that he could bring a starter mentality. He could be a close to a shutdown guy. And if your starters are McDuffie, Snead, and Bradberry, you're in a fantastic position.
That's true. I will say this, though. He performs better in zone than he does in man. And what Joshua Williams, as well as Jalen Watson, let out is that they are predominantly working man technique in this 3-day camp. So that tells me that while McDuffie is his own corner, he only played 18% man in college. That it doesn't seem to be that they're making a wholesale switch. So then that comes back to the Giant guy, whose name just escaped me. Folks, we're recording very late tonight for us. My brain's not really working. Bradberry's kind of like McDuffie in that plays better and more often in zone. And so that would kind of signal a change for Spags. McDuffie said today nicely that he is working out both at outside corner and at nickel. I like that. They play man and nickel here. They don't do a whole lot of zone out of nickel. So that tells me that they're comfortable with McDuffie and that that also points towards staying more man heavy than going more zone heavy. So that kind of takes Bradberry out of it for me, even without all the 17 bodies they have at the position here. If anything, that she should be looking to trade some of the guys they have by the time camp rolls around.
Well, and you're also looking at the cost of what Bradberry could cost you. And that's going to play into it. I mean, if he's willing to come in for a $3 million deal or a $4 million deal to try to chase a ring, I could see Kansas City taking it, but I don't know that he's going to be willing to take that much of a pay cut.
Well, I will say
he
this.
I was just gonna say, if he's willing to do that, then it's something you look at, because if you're willing to put McDuffie in a situation where he's going to be playing more man than he's used to instead of zone, you can do the same thing with Bradberry. And I think Bradberry is a good enough corner to give you the ability to have three guys that can basically be interchangeable. Now, the one thing I wouldn't like about it is it basically would almost relegate McDuffie to a bench role, because he's not going to take over the two starters until you get to nickel.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. He might fool you. I like his tape better than Bradberry's, I'll tell you that. So we'll see. But you're right about that, because just in terms of, it doesn't preclude them from bringing Bradberry. He showed enough playmaking ability. He did have a number of PBUs and interceptions last year. So like there is the upside to that. Even if you think maybe you're forcing him out of his comfort zone a little bit, he's proven to perform at least pretty well.
2020 was better than 2021. Just want to throw that out there.
2020 was right.
Yeah, was even better than 2021.
And so maybe if he is willing to take a lower deal, like you said, maybe that does make it justifiable that, again, veteran presence has made plays in the league. McDuffie's never done that. You know, you can love him on tape as much as you want, as much as I do, but it hasn't been proven yet. So if you're just looking to strengthen the roster spot, the question becomes Lonnie Johnson, and you made a trade for that. You gave up assets for that.
Conditional seventh, though.
Yeah, exactly. But but I'm just saying, like if it hadn't been for Johnson, I would say go ahead and grab him. Even if you want 6 a year or something like that, get it done. With Johnson there, I'm not so sure. I'm just not sure. I could see it going. I'm 50-50. I could see it going either way.
Well, I'm closer to 50-50 now than I was when the news broke that he was being cut. I was figuring it was more 20-80, really, that he wouldn't be brought in. But I have seen more people that know the league and know different players and know, people in the Giants organization and different people around the league that have said the Chiefs are still interested. So to me, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but to see Kansas City, it seems like still be interested in some regards. I think that's something to watch. And the other part of it for me is you start looking at what that could mean for this defense. If you can replace Fenton, and it's not that Fenton was a bad player, but he held a lot at different times that really hurt Kansas City's defense at times last year. If you can replace Fenton and upgrade him with Bradberry, I mean, that's it. That could be a huge upgrade. And you're talking about a situation where, and here's the other thing that it really plays into. What is Karlaftis' worst trait? It's that he can't bend, right? Which means he can't get to the quarterback quicker. Bradberry might give you an extra second to get after a quarterback because of sticky coverage.
Yeah.
How valuable could that be?
Right. If you have L'Jarius Sneed, Bradberry, and a first round pick as your three corners, you're hoping that you're giving Karlaftis and Frank Clark more time to get home.
And Chris Jones.
Chris doesn't need time. He's the quickest one of all of them.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, it's all going to play into it.
Yeah.
And probably Melvin Ingram, we still think he's probably going to be back. So, you have all those guys, and you and I talked about this. It would not shock me to see Karlaftis crash down and go inside. Agreed. On third down, especially on long third downs, and you have Ingram, Karlaftis, Jones, and Clark all on the field at the same time.
And he doesn't even have to get in, 3-point stance. He can rush inside out of a 2-point and be that quick and that powerful. I think that's great.
And I still won't put it past Spags to use Chanel in that system as well.
Yeah, I won't either. I don't think that's what I would do with him off the top. I want him freed up. Like I want him in a gap rather than against a man. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'd like to find a hole for him, but I will say this too, that like Karlaftis inside is really intriguing because while the tackles might have an arm advantage, the guards usually don't. Right. So that like evens the playing field. And I will say this, I put it in my eval last year. They might have drafted him because Spags loved him, but I can see him playing 5 technique very well as a not a 2-way 5 tech, but a crasher. Like I could see that if they switch to a 3-4 again in a year or 2 or whatever it is. And I think that's what's unique about that pick is that it's kind of future proof if they decide they want to change the front.
And it's very interesting you bring that up because what does Chanel and Bolton give you? They give you your 2 ILBs you could use.
Yep.
And, at that point, Willie Gay is probably going to be able to sit and do whatever Willie Gay needs to do in the 3-4 as well. So,
yeah,
I think you could be. I don't think that they're going that direction because I think that would take a huge change in a lot of personnel. But I could see situations where it would make sense.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to sprinkle in a little bit with Cullen running the front, but we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot of possibilities, folks. This is just the beginning, right?
Yeah. And there's a lot more to cover and there's a lot more to talk about. We will have a lot more coming over the next couple of weeks when we start getting into the different positional groups as well.
And we'll have Derek back with you for more firsthand information tomorrow. We'll continue down this road. It's just the beginning. It's like a whole new season. The draft just ended. We're on to 2023, 2022. Whatever year it is, we're going. Yeah, it's late. Thank you for your patience today, folks. Thanks for being with us. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell on YouTube. Subscribe on those audio platforms. We'll be back.